a mother and her daughter executed. Detective Bernie Nelson had investigated hundreds of murders, had learned to keep the recurring images of death at arm's length. But this case was different. He was a father to a teenager around Carissa Lofton's age.
Ma'am, I've been shot. Me and my mother have been shot. I'm bleeding to death.
That poor little girl, in her bedroom, she has the gumption to get on the phone and call you.
It hurts to listen to the 911 call because you can feel and hear the fear in her voice.
Even though nothing was taken, it seemed clear that the killer broke into the house. In fact, the burglar alarm had gone off, but it was disabled in under a minute. And that put Karen's son, Keon Lofton, at the top of police's person of interest list. He lived in the house. He knew the code. Police brought him in for questioning.
Does your mom set the alarm for the house?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all the time?
Every day, every time.
One of the detectives blatantly said, everybody in that room think it's you. You know, you're the only one who had access to the PIN code.
Would you have hurt your mom and sister?
No.
You wouldn't have hurt your mom and sister?
Not at all.
I was upset, like, you're not going to state it's me. I didn't have anything to do with it, you know. You can do whatever you need to do. It's not going to be me.
Keon told investigators he'd been spending the night at his fiancee's house when her mom woke him and told him she'd heard on the news that 2 women on his street had been murdered.
I just ran out the house, my heart's racing. I just hopped the gate, hopped in my car. I'm running lights, speeding, I'm still calling at the same time. And when I got there, they asked me for my name, and I was like, I'm Keon. And the police officer just kind of looked into his radio and said, okay, we got the son here. And I just broke down, you know.
Keon's alibi checked out. It wasn't him. Investigators also interviewed Kirkland, Karen's ex-husband and Carissa's father. He, too, had an airtight alibi. He'd been in Atlanta at the time of the murders.
We go a lot of places together.
Next on Detective Nelson's list was Karen's former boyfriend, Michael Lacey. He'd refused to take a lie detector test, so police interviewed him 3 separate times.
Did you all have keys to each other's house or anything like that?
Definitely not.
You couldn't just walk over and walk in? Or?
We would call.
He's someone that we had to roll out completely, and we did that.
So if you're thinking in your line of work, the usual suspects weren't going to figure in this one.
Not as far as immediate family.
Detectives Nelson and Shartner realized they had on their hands what homicide cops hate, a true mystery.
The first 48 hours of a case, usually you get a break in here. There's something that says, chase this, right?
Yes. Normally you would get something within the first 48 hours.
So this thing was as baffling as it was cruel.
Exactly. It didn't make any sense.
Then came March 16, 2009, 6 weeks after the Lofton killings, when 2 unsolved murders became 4. It began with a report of a stolen Nissan Maxima, just a couple of blocks from where the Loftons had been killed.
What's the nature of your emergency?
I just left my house maybe an hour ago and have come back. My car is missing out of the carport.
Detective Shartner was on call that night.
She's on the phone with the call taker. She notices that her car comes zooming by from up here on the street and comes by her at a fast rate of speed.
That's my car. Okay, it just zoomed past me. Wow.
She sees it while she's on the phone with dispatch? Here it comes, there it goes.
Absolutely.
Police swarmed the neighborhood hoping to nab the car thief. He was nowhere to be found, but police soon discovered the stolen car. Captured here on a cruiser's dash camera, it was parked in the driveway of a vacant house, engulfed in flames. Firefighters called to the scene to extinguish the fire made a grisly discovery. 2 bodies burned beyond recognition. And the victims? Another mother and her teenage daughter.
Dental records confirm the identities of the 2 female bodies found Monday in the trunk of this stolen car. 42-year-old Dolores DeWitt and her daughter, 19-year-old Ebony DeWitt.
She worked at a nursing home, and she loved taking care of the elderly population. I mean, she loved those people, and they loved her.
Patricia Smith remembers her sister Dolores as a mother and nurse who worked hard to provide a good life for her 2 daughters, but always saved a little time for herself.
She liked to go places. Every year she would treat herself on vacation. She felt like she worked hard, she should play hard.
And Ebony? She was the live wire at family get-togethers.
We would just make the party live and just act crazy until the end of the day. I mean, she loved life.
The last person known to have seen Ebony alive was her boyfriend. He told detectives that the previous night they'd had a late dinner. She was wearing her favorite blue sweater. Then he drove her home, watched her go inside her house. The killer may have been waiting. And now, when police once again made no arrests within 48 hours of the murders, waiting too was a devastated Patricia.
I started going back to my sister's house. Late at night, I would go and sit in the yard, just hoping that he would come back. I would sit there with the knife in my hand, and I would hold it like real tight, just in case he came up on me or something, because it would be him or me, either him or me. And I told the detectives what I did.
She couldn't sit still and do nothing. She wanted to be involved in the investigation from day one. She would actually go door to door in the neighborhood and talk to neighbors, try to ask them questions. But I had to repeatedly explain to her that we can't have her interrupting our case.
She's a thorn in your side.
She is, but I understood, because if my sister were killed, it would be hard for me to sit still too.
So Detective Shartner made Patricia a promise.
We were sitting in the car, and I remember just crying and crying and crying, and then he promised me, he said, I'm gonna get her. If it's the last thing I do. He said, I'm gonna get her.
To do that, Detective Shartner and Nelson had to confront a terrifying question.
So you got two murdered mother-daughters across the fence, virtually. Same neighborhood. So you're thinking, are these things related, right?
You have to think that, and if they are related, you have a serial murderer on your hands, and you don't know when he's going to hit next, and you don't know who he's going to hit next.